But let us go back to that idiotic claim that you heard from the Conservation Council that the world doesn't need more gas and coal. Oh, really? I mean, do these people actually put their head out the window and just check if the world looks like what they claim it does? I mean, look now. Australia has just lost its last fertiliser manufacturer, one in Brisbane. And the company says that the reason for that is that it's been unable to secure an economically viable long-term supply of gas. And here's the thing. The closure of that fertiliser plant now leaves our farmers here totally dependent on foreign supplies. How often do you hear that story these days? And that is a danger, particularly when China, probably the world's biggest supplier, has banned exports of phosphate and urea until June 2022. And why did it do that? Well, guess what? It's the same sort of problem. Not enough electricity because China is critically short of coal. Now that is the reality that global warming activists and politicians simply are not factoring into all their green plans for the rest of us. The world desperately needs more fossil fuels, particularly now coming out of the slump caused by the COVID crisis. And if these protesters think, oh, well, we could go green instead, just look now at Britain. This is a warning to Australia. It's gone green, it's scrapped most of its coal-fired power stations, but then it got a wind drought, low winds, and now with gas prices rising so much, it's had 22 electricity retailers go broke. 22 this year. Because price caps meant they had to buy gas at higher prices than were allowed to charge to customers. And the latest company to crash is, ironically enough, one called Bulb, which actually claimed it was going to make energy simpler, cheaper, greener. Green was going mainstream, it said. And only a couple of months ago, the Prime Minister hailed Globe as the future.
I'm here at a wonderful company called Bulb in their Bishopsgate headquarters, and I'm with some apprentices and Kickstarters who have joined Bulb. What they're doing is they're selling green energy to people, not just in this country, but as far as I can understand it, around the world. It seems incredible to me.
Incredible is right. Green energy. This company went broke because it was buying gas instead. Bulb has been smashed. Another green dream dead. Joining me is the country's best finance commentator, Terry McCrann of the Herald Sun. Terry, thanks for your time. Look, the Conservation Council says the world doesn't need more coal or gas. True or false?
Well, that's an easy one, Andrew. Give me a hard one. False, obviously. We certainly need more gas. Either way, we either need more gas if we stick with coal, but we certainly need more gas if we reduce the amount of coal we have in the energy mix, and obviously also oil. Let me just make a comment on Meg's point. This is the sort of project in a more sane Australia we would have been celebrating as such an extraordinary thing to do. I mean, just think about the actual dynamics of the project, Andrew. It's getting gas out of the sea, hundreds of meters under the sea. It's pumping it to shore. It's freezing it, and it's going to ship it off to other countries that desperately need that gas. I mean, this is an extraordinary project, and we should be celebrating it rather than saying this is terrible, it's terrible for Australia, it's terrible for the world. The other thing I thought was interesting about your chat with Meg was this is a company which is entirely in the business of producing gas and therefore pumping out CO2. But when she says she's going to be carbon neutral by 2050, that's far more credible than China saying it's going to be, whatever, by 2060. I mean, this is, again, extraordinary, which is an extraordinary comment on the total insanity of the debate, not such as it is, it goes on around these issues.
You're right to say that it's an amazing project when you think of the technology involved and the daring do, and also the amazing risks taken to try to find this gas and tap it. It's just brilliant. And the days were, as you said, we used to knight people for doing this for Australia. Now, what about your emissions? I mean,
and as you said, Andrew, the revenues it will generate for the company, the tax revenues it'll generate for the state of Western Australia and also the Commonwealth, the sort of revenues that play for our healthcare system, our schools, etc., etc. This is an extraordinary win-win-win project. I mean, it's something we should really be celebrating, and it's something that the Greens should be celebrating, because if they actually want to realistically reduce carbon dioxide emissions, the way to do so is using gas as part of that process.